Welcome back to WTOL 11 Your Day. Diane is at a speaking engagement this morning, chatting with some farmers in Putnam County, but we still want to catch up on what we've been doing the past week when it comes to our knit along. So I had been on vacation for about a week and a half, and Diane gave me an assignment to work on my purl stitching because I was working on my knit stitch, and then she gave me the assignment to work on my purl stitching here. So I started off okay, and then I think I fell back into knit stitching a little bit, and then I kind of came back to the purl, and then I started to try to alternate, you know, do the knit a few, purl a few, whatever, and it wasn't really working out. I was adding stitches, falling back into my old habits. So I did see Diane this morning before she went to her talk, and she set me straight. So she showed me what I was doing wrong, and hopefully I will get back on track here and continue working on knit and purl stitches so that I can take on a pattern here soon. Hopefully I will be able to actually make something once I'm done with all my practicing. So we want to thank Linda Morford. She sent us this picture of this gorgeous bag. I believe it is Harry Potter themed, but if you look very closely, it is beaded. It looks like it has some beads and some beautiful stitching, and it's a very small looking stitch. Someday I'll be able to understand exactly how she's going about making this, but it's just beautiful. So again, Linda, thank you so much for sending this beautiful picture of your project. And I understand while I've been out, Diane has been sneaking out and taking our knit along on the road. Well, today we have more information about the different kinds of yarns that are available. Diane hit the road to visit with the experts in Elmore. Take a look at this.
So we can start right here with this fingering weight. So this is a fairly thin yarn, as you can see. Probably not great for a beginner just because the stitches are going to be a little bit more finicky. They're smaller, harder to see, but a very fine weight yarn like this gives us a garment that is really beautifully drapey. After fingering weight, we have sport weight, which is just a little bit heavier. So if you look at it, it's hard to even tell the difference. It's really not much heavier than the fingering weight. So very similar, it'll be nice and drapey. I'll show you this next yarn here. This is made out of a DK weight, which is good for baby items because it's not so bulky. But if you wanted a blanket to have a little bit more weight to it, if you wanted it to be a little bit heavier, then you might go for a worsted weight, which is what we have here. And this is actually more of a light worsted weight. Even though something might be considered a worsted weight or a medium weight, there can be, 4 different medium or worsted weight yarns side by side, and you'll find that they're not all exactly the same thickness. So this one, I would consider this a chunky yarn, which is the next weight category up after medium or worsted. But this one is actually a thick and thin yarn. So if you can see the detail of the stitches here, they're not all the same size. So there's a lot of texture that's mixed in there, and that's due to the yarn being thick and thin. So if you look at the yarn that we have here, you can see that we have some strands that are very fine. We have some strands that are pretty thick. So this is actually your super bulky yarn, and I think the texture that you're referring to in this case is more actually from the stitch pattern. Again, if you have a different yarn or different tension or different stitch pattern, it's going to give you a completely different look. So there's really so much that can change your final product. This is our jumbo yarn, which is even heavier than the super bulky. So actually a few years ago, they didn't even have this weight category. It wasn't until the really oversized knits started to grow in popularity that they had to come up with a new category for these heavier yarns. And this is actually a pretty broad category, so even though this looks pretty thick, there are even heavier yarns that would fit into that jumbo category, like the roving yarns that you would see used for those really heavy, like arm knit blankets.
So much I still have to learn, but I was really glad to see that Diane went on the road to Elmore to see what they're working on and all the different types of yarn that is available to me. I'm looking forward to taking on some projects. Don't forget to join Amanda and Diane's Knit Along. Post your photos and some explanation of what you're making to our Facebook pages. Mine is Amanda Fay, Anchor Reporter. You can find me there on Facebook. I have the post pinned to the top of my page, so you should be able to find it pretty easily. Just drop your pictures there.